Nobody's born incredible. People who do incredible things simply took the right steps. This is our journey. This is the hunt for incredible. This episode is part 2 of 2 where I interviewed Dave Ceresne. Dave is one of the top 50 revenue generating hosts on Airbnb with over 15 properties, 10 of which are listed as guest favorites. He's tried everything from Airstreams to glamping to standard structures, all of which made this episode a ton of fun. I hope you enjoy it. So for those who are interested in taking those first steps and getting into the game, what would you say are the key areas that they should focus in on, zero in on, and maybe even a couple areas that they should not worry about?
People who are just starting and getting into this. So, I mean, I see a lot of, like, even right now, for instance, like my home, I don't know if I should be saying this, but I'll say it anyway. But like my home, I've never bought a property that I've actually occupied myself, right? I've never bought a house, right? Because for me, that never really made that much sense. But even right now, my home that I live in, or one of my place in Toronto, I rent it and then I re-rent it. Now, granted, I don't do it, I arbitrage it. And the intention wasn't to arbitrage it for a profit, but it's just because I'm never in Toronto. So that's just kind of how it worked out, right? So I think if you're just getting in, you maybe don't have like a lot of capital at this point. I feel like you could probably still figure out how to arbitrage, rent something for whatever it is, a couple $1,000s, and, Airbnb it and make maybe like 5 or 6. I don't know what the numbers are, but you could definitely start by doing that. Like I feel, and I'm sure, you've been in this game a long time too. If I threw you in, a country with nothing and, you had to go make your way in Airbnb, I'm sure you could figure it out. Or any host who, anybody who really, has been hosting for a little bit. Okay, I'll get this property. Like most people on Airbnb right now, or a lot of people are not maximizing the revenue that they're able to maximize by any means, right? So if you're just starting out, it's like, okay, well, could I get a unit and could I make it better and can I get the income, to double what I'm going to have to pay or triple what I'm going to have to pay for it? And I think in any market, the answer is yes, if you look.
Awesome. When you hear the word incredible, what do you think of?
I think about something that's like extraordinary, that somebody puts a lot of effort into to basically achieve.
Yeah. And that's what you're trying to do with your properties, right? You're hitting the incredible.
Yeah, I'm trying. Yeah, I'm trying.
That's awesome.
What about you? What about your hotel? The hotels. What are you currently up to with those?
Yeah, so I started off in short-term rentals. So for the last few years, I've been doing that, and the model with what we were going for just made a lot of sense. So we decided to scale up, and so my partners and I, we look in highly regulated markets. So like you were saying, you need to there are a couple ways to withstand the competition. There's one way, which is to create a superior product, which is what you're doing. You have a killer offering. And then the other way to beat competition is just to make sure that there's none around. So we're looking at hotels in highly regulated markets, a lot of coastal areas that are recession resistant. So we like markets that are like regional destination or regional markets. So not destination where you have to like fly out to Vail or some of these other like Hawaii and stuff like that, but areas where people can drive to. We avoid the urban markets because those are often very saturated, but those regional markets tend to do really well and are recession resistant because we find that whenever there's an economic downturn or people are strapped for cash, they don't stop traveling. They just change their traveling habits. So we're targeting those markets where they tend to be recession resistant. Fredericksburg is a killer location that tends to be recession resistant because, I mean, it's Texas wine country, right? So rather than going on this long, lavish trip to Europe or wherever else, people are more likely to take a weekend trip to Fredericksburg. Everybody in Texas knows about Fredericksburg. It's close to Austin, San Antonio, everything else. So it's a killer market. So yeah, we're looking in markets like that. And we're going for hotels that are 10 to 30 units. And our strategy is to manage them remotely. So we have we're vertically integrated. So we buy from mom and pops. We add value through operations and renovations because there are 30 million baby boomers that are retiring over the next 7 years. And they own about 25% of small businesses, which include these boutique hotels. So it's an incredible
hmm
opportunity, and I think we're seeing a lot more attention on that space because Airbnbs are becoming so much more regulated. Like Dallas just posed
hmm
restrictions that it was actually by the end of last year. So now the ban is in full force, where there are a lot of Airbnb
hmm
operators who are trying to, they have to shift to something else, and whether they take their capital and they reallocate it into something more stable or that they have more confidence in, like boutique hotels, or whether they just totally shift markets. They're trying to figure out what to do with that. And so they're getting boutique hotels is getting a lot more attention because like there's a property that I can't share too much on right now because we're in the middle of it, but um, it's in a highly regulated market with like
hmm
very strict rules around supply, and so the demand is really strong and the demand stays really strong, and the market has shown strong fundamentals over the last decade or over the last 30 years, but it's really climbed up over the last decade. And it is
hmm
like it was run by this super old lady who hasn't changed how she operates things literally since she's owned the
Hasn't
property.
changed her bed. Hasn't changed her bed sheets or her duvet cover in
Dude,
50 years.
I will send you photos privately. It's literally like an antique shop. I walked in and thought we could probably make 20 grand just hiring some major antique company to come pick all this stuff up. It was like literally not even just old furniture. It's old items that aren't even in use anymore. Like there's no practical use for the antiques that are in this facility. And so opportunities like
Yeah,
that we are I speculate that in
and there's a lot of those.
dude,
There's a lot of those
there's a lot of
opportunities.
them. And if you can find a
Yeah.
property that's cash flowing under those conditions, and you scoop it up and you modernize it, bring it to the 21st century, like a lot. And another big
hmm
play for us is so modernizing the property. So bringing everything up to the 21st century, putting it on OTAs like Airbnb and VRBO, because a lot of these properties also they're not even on Airbnb and VRBO, and so they're literally exclusively
Yes.
from through direct bookings, and a lot of their demographic that comes in are the older generation that want to call in to book a reservation and stuff like that. So just crazy opportunities, or converting manager suites into functioning units, so bringing additional units online. And these are just like simple conversions, right? So literally just converting the manager suite into a unit that can be rented out, and then we manage the property remotely
Yeah.
anyway. So that's our play, and we're seeing a lot of interesting opportunities there.
How do you go about when you go into a new market and you have to, go hire contractors and do renovations? What's that process like for you?
Yeah, so we have GCs that we have experience with, and so we'll fly them out to the location. There have been some opportunities, like my partner. This was towards the end of last year. There was a property that they bought that they flew the whole crew out there on site, and so the crew was away from home, so they were highly motivated to get the job done quickly. And it was in a more remote
hmm
area. And so they had these shipping containers with all the supplies that the crew needed. And they were working around the clock through the weekends because they just wanted to get home. So they ended up
hmm
getting like
hmm
they got paid that extra amount for working over the weekends. They got home sooner. The job got done faster, and so it was interesting. So
Yeah.
yeah, we have a couple GCs depending on what their availability looks like that we leverage, and we fly them out there. We also like GCs that their crew is paid, so they're like full-time employees instead of just subbing out to different people that you don't know the quality of their
Random.
work. Yeah, so yeah,
hmm
that's our approach.
Yeah. So I'm sure you can appreciate the importance of, you know, uh, good, good labor, right? Or good
Oh
management
yeah.
and good labor.
Yeah,
So
yeah, big time. And
yeah.
I don't have a whole lot of construction experience. My partner has a pretty significant background in construction, which I really appreciate. So I partnered with the people who compensate for the
Yeah.
things that I'm not necessarily good at, and we've formed the team.
It's smart.
But that is
It's
incredibly
smart.
valuable. Is okay, what questions do you ask? How do you identify the right GCs or subcontractors? And how do you keep an eye on them to make sure that they're not trying to pull a fast one on you? So it's definitely
Yes.
it's dog eat dog out there in the construction world for sure.
Yeah. if you want to build something, and if you have like a really strict budget, or if you can't afford to make mistakes, probably what I would, and you haven't done it before, probably my recommendation would be maybe, do something what you did and go find somebody who has that experience, and, do a combined deal. Um, that's, that would be my advice for, like, in hindsight, wouldn't have touched this on my own.
Mm.
Not with a 10-foot pole. Like,
Dude, so those are often the
so
best gigs though, right? The ones that you look back and you say, I won and the return was great, but if I had to do it all over again, I would
yeah,
avoid all of these landmines and just go straight to the whatever.
yeah, yeah. No, that's the way to do it. I think the partnership is like a good partnership. Um, is definitely the way to go on things like this. And one other thing you mentioned earlier, like for somebody new starting out, you know, I would actually say if this is an area you want to get into, yes, you can try getting a unit on your own, but also like maybe working for, a property management company, you'll learn a ton. Like, you'll learn how to all the programs work, you'll learn markets, you'll learn, so much stuff that it's going to end up costing you money and time to learn on your own, right? If you just work for, a small property management company, you'll learn all that really quickly. And it's really interesting because, and I don't know if you have this kind of same, do you have an operations manager?
I do, yeah.
Okay. So maybe I shouldn't say this. You could cut this out if you want, but so also I had this girl, she used to work for me. She was my operations manager, ran my operations flawlessly for years, right? And I'm thinking in my head, I'm like if she just went off on her own, she could make way more money than she's making from. Like she knows everything, right? Like literally, she knows way more than I do about this, right? And I'd always think that, but then again, not everybody like wants their own business. That's the rare quality in people, right? It's the rare quality in people is, like anybody could do bookkeeping, anybody could do marketing, and there's a million people who will do a million jobs, right? But there's not that many people who'll be like, okay, I'm going to start my own business and have 5 units and start arbitraging them. And, you have these people who are like smarter than you in a lot of ways working for you. And you're like, they could literally just do this without
Yeah,
me.
yeah. Well, and
What do they need me for,
not
right?
everybody is willing to incur that level of risk or put in the extra hours and work through the
Yes,
weekends to get the momentum built up such
yes,
that those roles can be supplemented.
yeah,
Like there are people that I work
exactly.
with that I'm like, dude, you could absolutely build this yourself, but they don't want their name on the loan. They want like that steady paycheck. They just want to work the 9 to 5
Yes,
hours. And because you've built up the momentum to where they can afford to just work 9 to 5, they're in that spot. But if they went out and did it on their own, now they're working from 9 to 9 through the weekends also until they get to that spot. So it's like, all right, I'll leave my name
yes,
off the loan. I'll stay out of the risk and stay out of the reward. I'm just looking for this specific thing. And yeah, it's interesting.
yeah,
There's a different type of person for every type of role that's needed at every phase of the business.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It's true.
Yeah. Dave, it's been an absolute
True
pleasure
stuff.
talking to you.
All right, yeah. Let me know if you're in Fredericksburg. If you want to come swing by or something.
Yeah.
Bring or the wife
Yeah,
already.
yeah. Yeah, we actually got married during
Oh, you guys got
COVID
married.
over Zoom because like everything was shut down.
Really?
Yeah. So I proposed in Canada in
Yeah.
2019. We were supposed to get married in 2020 when everything was shut down. And rather than pushing the wedding back, we
Yeah.
just got married. I mean, we were both in the same living room, but everybody else was on Zoom. There's like 10 other people.
Do you raise money? Is that what you do?
I do. Yeah, we syndicate.
Like, what's your kind of company structure like?
Yeah, so we syndicate. We do GP structures. It depends on like the split depends on how juicy the deal is because we want to make sure that our investors get everything that they need and that their returns are really solid. But we typically aim for a
Yeah.
60-40 split. So the limited partners or the silent partners will come in and they'll invest and get that the 60% of the deal, and then the general partners who
Hmm.
are like sponsors, which is me and three other people typically, come in on the GP side, and we'll have 40% of the deal. So yeah, we syndicate, we raise money, but we make sure that of course, like the investors' returns are the most important thing to us. So if a deal is not as juicy, either we won't go for it or we will lean heavier on the LP side. So we would do like a 70-30 split. But typically we're really strict on our criteria, especially with where things are in the market. We're finding that there are a lot of interesting opportunities that are springing up for people who are able to pool the
Hmm.
capital together, because the
Hmm.
volume of deals that were done last year was very low, at least in the boutique hotel space. It was very, very low. The interest rates were so high that sellers either wanted to hang on to their property rather than selling it at a lower price, because of when higher interest rates show up, of course, like it compresses the prices because people don't have as much purchasing
Hmm.
power to buy hotels. So people don't want to buy with the high interest rates, and the sellers don't want to sell at lower prices. So a lot of people are holding out, um, and then also with the high interest rate and with how risky.
Is that still the case?
So it's beginning to shift. So the mood in the space is beginning to shift now, a large part because the Fed recently um, released that they plan to do a few rate cuts over the next year. Of course, we won't know till they actually do it. Nobody has a crystal ball, so we'll see. But
Yeah.
yeah, so it's effectively, and it's given the economic uncertainty, at least that we had over the last year, it was difficult to raise capital. So you'd go to lenders and they'd say, look, we only want to give you capital if you have a lot of experience, if you have a lot of hotels. Like we need to find a way to de-risk the situation. And so fortunately, my partners and
Hmm.
I, we have a lot of strength as a group. And so we're able to have these conversations with lenders, which is super exciting because now, with the high interest rates that's compressing the prices, we're able to have conversations with boutique hotel owners that are trying to sell their assets. We're able to get the capital from lenders as well as raise capital, and getting these deals at great prices. But I'm in super rush mode because as these interest rates fall and people's purchasing power raises, and sellers are more willing to sell
They're
and
gonna
buyers are having easier time finding capital, where I'm anticipating that this will only last
Prices are
another.
gonna go back up.
Yeah, I'm anticipating this will only last another 9 to 18 months. So my partners and I, we're going hog wild as fast as we can.
Or
Just
hustle.
yeah,
Yeah. Have you looked in Fredericksburg for stuff?
very lightly, but there's not a whole lot of inventory down there. But it's at least not for sale.
It'd be like door knocking there or something, right?
Yeah,
If you
yeah,
wanted
probably
to
calling
do
calling
something.
direct to owners. I love that market though. That's a super super cool market.
Yeah.
It's
I got a lot of properties that way. A
oh
lot of
really
like really
nice.
nice rural properties.
Just reaching
Yeah,
out
yeah.
to people.
Yeah, just I one time I actually put notes on a bunch of doors and I got a property that way.
Nice,
Yeah, just a lot of random stuff like
nice.
that. But no, I'd love to like find deals. That's my specialty is finding deals, but I just kind of haven't had time to
Yeah,
do
yeah.
that in the past.
How do you weigh the rural markets? Because that's something that sometimes my partners and I will come across a property, but there won't be a lot of comps on it, and so there's that uncertainty. And unless we can actually be confident in like the traffic that we'll be able to pull in.
I think if you just have like a good enough place, like something just stands out enough. In my experience, like I bought this place. It was in the middle of the woods. It was dirt cheap. It was in the middle of nowhere, but it was sick. And it was in the middle of nowhere, but I was like, you know what? Like, I'll just buy it if it doesn't rent. Like, I'll just use it myself. And it was like, for a year, it was like my best performing
No
property.
way,
Like
nice.
people just, yeah. And you know, you look at like, you know, Isaac from Live Oak.
Yeah,
So you
in
look at
Waco.
his, he just sold it, by the way. But you look, yeah, you look at his property. I mean, you know, come on, Waco, right? Like, who the hell's going to Waco, right? Spend $350 midweek for, you know, I don't care what it is, right? Like, it could be, you know, it could be like Caesar's house and who the, you know what I mean? But he kills it with his marketing, right?
Yeah.
Like, you know, and you know, something, and that's why I feel like the marketing is super important too. If you could really get that locked down, and you know, he said he's like, you know, I spoke to him a few times, and you know, he's like, you know, people in the beginning, people would you know come to Waco and stay at my place. Now he's like, everybody who comes is coming to my place, and then they're going to Waco if they
Hmm.
go there,
Yeah.
right? So you know, and I've seen that too, especially with these ground up builds, and maybe like with you know boutique hotels if you're doing a lot of value add, like I lived in Eastern Europe. I went to all these random countries, spent tons of time in them, and I would drive like, I always find the spa hotels, right? And they're like 3 hours outside the city in the middle of nowhere, right? But they were like this crazy ass like hotel experience with a spa. They're full to the
Yeah.
brim. Didn't matter. Getting like 5 times what they should be getting. So I'm really under the impression if you build it, they will come.
Mm.
And I don't know if you've seen that girl, Emily. She's out of New York also. She's got a couple container homes there.
Mm-mm.
She kills it with her Instagram too. Anyway, she's got a couple of little container homes that she does a killer job marketing for, and she's getting like 5 times the average nightly rate in that area.
Wow.
But nobody's going for that area. They're all coming
Right.
from her
Yeah.
Instagram, right? So, you
Yeah.
know,
Well, man, I'm excited
yeah,
to follow along. Before the call, you mentioned that you're gonna start pushing your Instagram more, right?
yes, yeah. So I have this guy, Shelby Wilray, super good photographer. He's going to take over managing my Instagram and everything. So Astria. So I will bump that. I'm finally have the money now coming in to like build out my team there now. I'm hiring right now. I'm hiring like a structure project manager, property manager, and now I can really start doing things that I want to do.
Right.
Right?
Dude, that's amazing.
Yeah.
I'm super stoked to follow along. Where can people find you?
I have a Canadian company and a Texas one is Astria. So I guess my Instagram is that I'm just starting right now to build is Astria at ASTRYIAA. Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, yeah. Man, I'm super stoked. I'll let you know when I'm in town. We can grab coffee and check out the property, and yeah, it'll be good.
Sounds good, man. And if you're in Fredericksburg, let me know. I got a place for you.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. I appreciate it.